Everyone, good afternoon. My name is Suren Deoram, and I'm an FAE with Telit in the Location department. Today I want to introduce Telit's application using location along with the modem, combining the two as a bundled solution. So what I want to cover today is a GPS implementation, firmware update, and that's be done through the modem, and also the location application using Telit App Zone implementation and the IoT portal and a geofencing application. So quite often GPS is used to enhance reception of GNSS signals, and if you have an antenna like this with a ground plane, then an outdoor situation, your GPS signals are quite good, and you can have a position within sub 5-second range. If you're indoors, the signals are weaker, and even though customers are recommended to use an antenna of this size with a ground plane, most customers don't have the space or weight requirement will limit them from using something this, so they use a smaller antenna with less performance. So so you bring something like that indoors, the signals are really weak, and you might not even be able to get a fix indoors. So one thing the AGPS helps is it generates ephemeris predictions. So ephemeris contains the coefficients for the orbits or the satellites, and they're broadcast from the satellites every 4 hours. They're updated. With the extended ephemeris, you have a 1-day model, or 3-day model, or a 7-day model, and in some cases up to 14-day model that could be used. So implementing this, it requires an internet connection, so you have your application processor. So this is code will have to be implemented in your application processor, where it goes and requests the extended ephemeris from a server, downloads the data, then this has to be error checked and stored onto your host, either on the RAM or downloaded directly to the module. So there's a second stage, so you have to, from the EE downloader, where you have to transfer that into the GNSS receiver. So as you can see, this is quite involved, and Telit does support source code. We do provide a source code package, which is buildable and compiled for a command line application and Visual C. However, a customer has to take this and port it over into their application processor. While it's not completely, it's very difficult to do, it could have some delays in your project. I've seen customers that gets caught up in a small bug and it maybe take a month or so to get resolved. So what Telit offers, by bundling this with the modem, it simplifies the process down to just a few AT commands. So you establish an internet connection, you get authenticated by the server, and you download the extended ephemeris file, and that gets stored into the GNSS module. So there are some significant advantages with this process. It makes implementation much simpler. Similarly, with the firmware upgrade, the process is very similar. So this is a flow chart of the firmware upgrade process, how that would take place. So there, again, it's not very complicated, but it does take time to port over to a processor, an application processor. And this chart continues here. So if a customer came to us and asked us, they want to do firmware over the air, they want to do this process on their own, again, we would provide them with a source code package, and then they would have to take this package, which compiles and builds a command line application from Visual Studio and runs under Windows, and they'd have to port this to their processor. So this Again, it's involved, but it's not very complicated. But it does take time, and it's prone to errors on the developer side. Again, with this one, two AT commands will get you that firmware update. So another advantage of using the modem, it's got user code, and I know some customers already have implemented situations where they've used the user's space on the modem and write their own application either in Python or C. What I wanted to show was building an application using AppZone and downloading this with so you can build an application in AppZone using the AT commands that we have embedded for extended ephemeris generation, and use this with all this will be done transparent to the user. No one has to interact with going to the server, authenticating the server, and downloading into extended ephemeris files. AppZone has a nice integrated development environment. It's a lot of useful APIs that makes the process really simple. We have source code that we can provide. Example of this application, for example, the one I'm going to show here. So this application will use the Telit IoT web portal, and in here you could go select on the geofence and build, literally just drag the mouse and create a polygon or a circle of the area that you want to fence. What this will do is when the device enters the geofence, it sends an alert. You could set it up to, so it logs it here, but you also could send a message out. Or if it exits the geofence, you could also send this message out. So this is the entire EVK. It's just two of Telit's modules. Oops. And it's the LE910 with the SE868 V3 module. So this entire application could be built just on this two platforms. There's no need for an application processor. This comes in useful if you're doing an asset tracking device where there is no need for a display or any other smart communication. You could activate the modem. The modem could be in a dormant state, a hibernate state, and it could be activated by selecting using something like an accelerometer, for example. If it's something that needs to be tracked when it's first moved, that way you can conserve on the battery power for one of these devices. As it moves around, you could send an interrupt to the processor through to the modem through a GPIO. It wakes, it gets a location, it reports it, and you could at that point decide if you want to keep it on or turn it off back. So there's lots of applications. I've had a implementation where customers were trying to do this on their own, but they were porting the geofencing inside the application processor, which becomes a much more difficult task to do.